Have you ever heard a sound that chills you to the bone? Not just a loud noise, but something ancient, something that carries a warning. In the forgotten village of Blackwood Hollow, nestled deep within a perpetually misty valley, they know such a sound. They call it the plague bell. It doesn't hang in a church tower. No, this bell is forged from blackened iron and is said to be buried somewhere in the cursed soil of the Whispering Fen, a place the villagers avoid even in broad daylight. Legend says it wasn't run by human hands but by the restless spirits of those who perished in the great pestilence centuries ago. They say the bell rings on its own to herald a new sickness, a fresh wave of despair. For generations, this was just a scary story, a tale to frighten children into coming home before dusk. Old Man Hemlock, the village elder, would tell tales of the bell's mournful, clanging toll that carried on the wind, a sound that meant doors should be bolted and prayers whispered. But no one living had ever actually heard it. It was a relic of a dark past, a ghost story, until last week. It started with Liam, a young man who fancied himself a skeptic and a bit of a rebel. Tired of the village's superstitions, he decided to prove the plague bell was a myth once and for all. He boasted in the tavern that he would spend a night in the Whispering Fen and return with nothing but mud on his boots and a story to mock the old tailies. The villagers pleaded with him, their faces pale with genuine fear. But Liam just laughed, calling them cowards, and set off as twilight painted the sky in shades of bruised purple. He never came back, not the next day, nor the day after. A search party was organized, but they were hesitant, their steps faltering at the edge of the fog-shrouded fen. They called his name until their throats were raw, but the only answer was the croaking of unseen frogs and the sigh of the wind through the reeds. They found nothing. No sign of a struggle, no dropped lantern, not even a single footprint past the fence edge. It was as if the marsh had simply swallowed him whole. That night, as an uneasy quiet settled over Blackwood Hollow, it happened. A sound faint at first, like a distant blacksmith's hammer. Dong, it was slow, mournful, and metallic. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Windows rattled softly. Dogs began to whine and scratch at their doors. People froze, dinner forks hovering midway to their mouths. Dong, it grew louder, a deep, resonant toll that vibrated in your chest. It wasn't a church bell. It was harsher, colder. The plague bell, panic, cold and sharp, gripped the village. Doors were slammed shut, bars dropped into place. The once cozy hamlet became a prison of fear. For 3 nights, the bell tolled, a constant maddening rhythm from dusk until dawn. Dong, dong, no one slept. They huddled by their fireplaces, listening to the dreadful sound, imagining Liam lost and alone ringing that cursed bell as a warning. Then, on the 4th day, the sickness began. It started with Old Man Hemlock's wife, Elara. She woke with a fever that burned through her blankets and a cough that sounded like wet gravel. Her skin grew pale, and dark, spidery veins appeared beneath its surface. The village doctor, a man of science, dismissed it as a severe flu. But then the baker's son fell ill with the same symptoms. Then 2 farmers on the opposite end of the village. The pattern was random, merciless. It wasn't spreading from house to house, it was just appearing. The sickness was swift and cruel. Within a day of the first cough, the afflicted would become delirious, muttering about a cold, wet place and a ringing sound that wouldn't stop. Their eyes would glaze over, staring at something no one else could see. By the 2nd day, they were gone. The doctor was baffled. No medicine worked. No prayer was answered. With each new death, the tolling of the bell at night seemed to grow louder, more triumphant. Dong, dong. I was one of the few who had yet to show symptoms. My name is Thomas, and I run the small provision store. I watched my friends and neighbors wither away, their homes becoming silent tombs. Fear is a poison, and it was killing us as surely as the sickness. The village was dying. We were trapped, not just by the geography of our valley, but by the sound that haunted our nights. Driven by a desperation that bordered on madness, I decided I had to do what Liam had failed to do. I had to find the bell, but not to mock it. I had to silence it. I believed, with a conviction born of terror, that if the bell stopped, the sickness would too. Armed with a shovel, a lantern, and a heavy iron mallet, I ventured into the whispering fen as the sun began to set. The fog was thicker than I had ever seen it, clinging to me like a damp shroud. The ground squelched under my boots, and strange gnarled roots seemed to grab at my ankles. The air was heavy with the smell of decay and stagnant water. As darkness fell completely, the tolling began. Dong. It was deafening out here. The sound vibrated through the solace of my feet, a physical force that made my teeth ache. I followed the sound, wading deeper into the muck. It led me to a small, unnaturally clear patch of ground, a small island of solid earth in the heart of the marsh. And there it was, half buried in the black soil was the bell. It was smaller than the legends described, about the size of a large cauldron, its iron surface pitted and black with age. And it was ringing, but nothing was touching it. The bell was vibrating violently, shimmering in the lantern light as it produced its soul-shaking toll. Dong. Standing beside it was a figure. At first, I thought it was Liam. The shape was his, the clothes were his. But his skin was gray and translucent, his eyes were hollow sockets, and his mouth was agape in a silent scream. Water and mud dripped from him constantly, yet he left no puddles on the dry earth. He wasn't ringing the bell, he was bound to it. His spectral form flickered and distorted with each deafening clang, a prisoner to its sound. I realized the horrifying truth. The bell didn't herald the plague, it was the source. And it didn't just need a ringer. It fed on one. It had taken Liam and was using his captured spirit, his life force, to power its dreadful song, broadcasting its sickness out into the world. My fear was replaced by a surge of cold fury. I wasn't just fighting a curse. I was fighting to free Liam's tortured soul. I raised the iron mallet, its weight feeling immense in my trembling hands. The spectral figure of Liam turned its hollow gaze towards me, a silent plea in its empty eyes. Dong. The sound wave almost knocked me off my feet. I staggered forward, my ears ringing, my vision swimming. I swung the mallet. The connection of iron on iron was explosive. It wasn't a clear ring, but a discordant screaming crash that echoed through the fen. A crack, thin as a spider's thread, appeared on the bell's surface. The tolling stopped. For the first time in a week, there was silence. The ghost of Liam flickered violently and then dissolved into 1,000 tiny motes of light, like fireflies, which swirled once before vanishing into the night air. I didn't stop. I swung again and again, fueled by grief and rage. With each strike, the crack widened. I hammered at the cursed object until it shattered into a dozen jagged pieces of black iron, which fell silent into the mud. The silence that followed was absolute, deeper and more profound than any I had ever known. I stood there, panting, covered in mud and sweat, my entire body shaking. The fog in the fen began to thin, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I could see the stars. I returned to Blackwood Hollow as the sun rose. The village was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet. It wasn't the silence of fear, but of exhaustion, of peace. That day, no new cases of the sickness appeared. Those who were in the early stages found their fevers had broken. Their recovery was slow, but they recovered. We had lost so many, but the plague was over. The village is slowly healing now. The memory of the bell and the lost ones will forever scar us. Sometimes, when the wind blows just right, I think I can hear a faint metallic echo from the fen, and my blood runs cold. The story of the plague bell is no longer a ghost story. It's a history written in the graves of our loved ones. And it's a warning that some legends are true and some bells are better left unrung. Forever. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy tales of folklore and horror, make sure to subscribe for more stories from the shadows. Stay safe out there.